Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Sabe, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. So our story for today, children, is the story of the 3 Jews and the fiery furnace. And join with me today is my little acolyte, Hezekiah. And the story begins with King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, building a big golden statue of himself and telling everyone that when you heard the sounds of the horn or the pipe and the lyre and the trigon and the harp and the drums and the music assembly, that they were to bow down and worship the statue. Because the kings of Babylon, they believed that they were god kings. That meant that the kings were divine and that people could worship them like they could a god. And so, King Nebuchadnezzar said that all the people had to worship King Nebuchadnezzar, and that whenever they heard the instruments, they had to bow down towards his statue. What happened then one day, all the people were gathered before the statue and the music began to play, and the people started to bow down.
That's fine. And I don't want it.
And everyone bowed down except for 3 people. And who were they, Hezekiah?
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Good try. It's actually Shadrach. But yes, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, that was their Babylonian names that they had gained when they came to Babylon. Their original Jewish names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. But everybody knows them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because that's how they're referred to in this story in the book of Daniel. And now, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow down to the statue. And the king was
angry at him.
He was furious. And the punishment for those who didn't bow down to the statue is that they had to be thrown into a big, what, Hezekiah?
Fiery furnace.
Now, their punishment was to be thrown into a big fiery furnace. And the king was so mad that he ordered that the furnace be heated up hotter than normal. Kaya, do you remember how much hotter the king wanted the furnace to be?
No. 7.
You gotta say that.
7 times hot.
Yeah, he made it 7 times hotter than normal. And it was so hot that as they brought the Jews to be thrown into the furnace, the guys throwing them in, they fell down dead. It was so hot that they died from the fire. But the 3 Jews were thrown into the fiery furnace. Now, the 3 Jews were thrown into the fiery furnace. But the king looked, and the Jews weren't dying. They weren't being burnt up. And then the king said, "Hold on a moment. Didn't we throw only 3 people into the fire?" And the soldiers said, "Yes." And then the king said, "Then how come there are 4 people in the furnace?" See, there were now actually 4 people inside the fiery furnace. And King Nebuchadnezzar said the 4th person had the appearance of a god. Because who was that 4th person in the fire with him, Hezekiah?
Jesus.
That's right. Jesus, or the pre-incarnate Jesus, before he took on flesh, he came into the fiery furnace with the 3 Jews and he kept them safe so that they didn't die. And the king was amazed that the Jews were kept safe. Now, King Nebuchadnezzar said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." And so, the 3 of them came out of the fiery furnace. And Nebuchadnezzar began to praise the God of the Bible, saying, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has delivered his servants, and has sent his angel to protect them. They disobeyed the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God." And then the king Nebuchadnezzar made a new decree. He said, "Therefore I make a decree. Any people, nation, or language that utters blasphemy against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their house shall be laid in ruins, for there is no other God who is able to deliver in this way." So at this point in time, King Nebuchadnezzar wasn't necessarily a believer in the God of the Bible. He would be eventually, but that's a different story. But at this point, he now said nobody in the empire was allowed to say anything naughty against the God of the Bible, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so that's our story for today, children. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye, and God bless.